think I figured it out. Hi. 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 Can you all hear me? Hey, I think I got audio.
I was about to call Joe Rogan.
No, we don't need Joe. We got this. All right. So now we're back. Let's get the crew back in the room.
Oh my word.
And let's get this party started.
Okay, let me get in here. You have to change the title later. Don't touch it now.
No, I'm not going to touch it now.
Oh, I got sirens outside the house.
Yep, I hear
Someone's fighting over toilet paper. Toilet paper massacre out here.
All right, guys, if at any point you can't hear me or Kevin, just drop a link in the comments. I made Kevin a moderator so he can see everything, respond to everything, do whatever he wants to do with the entire channel, actually, because, yeah, I just gave you permission.
We're going to take down all the Hooked Up Fishing 365 videos. Take them all down. All right, we got a couple people. I want to make sure if you guys can hear us, if you can just type. We were having some mic issues. Yeah, setting up technology is difficult.
Yeah, it certainly can be.
How we doing, guys? If you guys are just popping on, if you could just kind of type something, let us know that you can actually hear us this time.
I am
I'm gonna make sure the
pretty
audio is good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all good. Just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I can see my little mic thing going, so it looks like we're good to go. So as of this point, it would just be me talking to you. We need a few more people to get on here, so we're blasting it out to make sure we have a good crew. We can answer some of these questions that you guys had. If at any point you can't hear us, or if you can hear us, give me a thumbs up. Hit the like button if you can hear me. Make a comment if you can't. And I'll edit all the garbage out of it, post-production, and retitle it and do all that.
I think It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. When I put another spinnerbait, and I used as a wedge.
This is why I've not set up any type of podcast.
Yeah, I think the podcast might be a little simpler. Because then I would just use my GoPro as the camera, feed it through, do all that. That'd be pretty simple. So there, we're starting to get some folks on. So we won't waste too much time now. Hey, can you guys give me hit the like button on the video if you can hear us? It's literally right below where you're watching. Hit the little thumbs up button. Hit like, bing. People on Hater, so he'll answer or say hi back because I can't type because of the way I got this thing set up. I can't really get there. Hey, what's going on, Jason? So we're going to talk a little bit about Hooked Up 365 you want over there in the comments, and we will answer them live. We got a little bit of connection issues, but it seems to reconnect fairly quickly. So just bear with us. There will be a little bit of a lag between when you're asking questions, when we're getting them answered. So Kevin, before we get into any of the questions, and everybody who's watching, the guy you can see on the iPad, this is our picture-in-picture, how we have to stream because the other format didn't work. So this is what we are dealing with currently. Kevin, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about the company?
All right, so I'll just start here. So pretty much a couple of years ago, and I wanted to kind of re-engage with the outdoors, really dive into fishing a lot more, and really just be able to bond with my 5-year-old son, and out on my personal Facebook page to, you know, all my friends, family, whatever, that I was thinking about maybe doing, and kind of put together a name. They had a few names and kind of put like a poll, kind of asking everybody what names they like. And Hooked Up Fishing, you know, was the most popular pick name. So this was back in November of 2018. And my best friend kind of heard about everything that I was trying to do, and he's got kids, he wanted in. So it really kind of is like these two fathers really trying to explore fatherhood through the outdoors. So that kind of became our niche, where that's kind of how we got our slogan, Fishing Family Adventure. You know, just being family and being outdoors and trying to have a lot of fun and doing a bunch of adventures and, you know, primarily fishing. That's really what we love doing. We kind of had the idea of kind of putting some apparel together so we could kind of brand the YouTube channel. That's really all it was. We were just going to make some hats and shirts and stuff for ourselves. It's funny because when the company started, well, right before the company started, so my friend and I, he's like, hey, I think we should try to sell the merchandise. And I, you know, it was kind of this debate about, well, nobody's going to buy it. He said they would. I said nobody is. We kind of went back and forth for quite a while. And I kind of gave in. I said, okay, let's try to sell some stuff. And we were trying to get some things in place. And at 12:30 in the morning, this is back in February, beginning of February 2019, 12:30 in the morning, I launched the company while my friend was sleeping. Within 60 seconds, I had 47 messages asking, how do they buy we put out a face shield and we put out a hoodie. How do they buy the stuff? How do we get on your pro staff? And I'm sitting here like, holy God, I didn't mention anything about Pro Staff. I was literally just trying to do a market test and see if this stuff had any value, if people were even interested in it. So an hour later, 1:30 in the morning, I'm blowing up my friend's phone. I wake him up, and he's kind of making fun of me, like, "Are you out of your mind? Like, you go and launch a company in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping." So February of 2019, we made the company legit, and then sold a bunch of gear and started taking on some field staff members, and that's really kind of how the company started. And our whole fish and hike and hunt for Bigfoot or whatever it may be. So. So yeah, and then it's kind of taken us to where we are now. Personally, I've ended up picking up some really great sponsorships with some awesome companies, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to partner with some of those companies where we've been able to implement some really, really awesome products into the company. So not just apparel anymore, and we do a lot of fishing gear now as well, whether it be bass jigs, fishing rods, fishing gloves, things like that. So
awesome. So I was lucky enough to not meet Kevin because he lives in Wisconsin. That's where I'm from, by the way. I used to live right down the road from you. But what, about a year ago, I suppose, is when we hooked up, and then just this recent past year, Kevin took a chance and added me to the pro team, which I'm eternally grateful for, and it's a pretty cool deal and a pretty cool thing to be a part of. If nothing else, from a value standpoint, he's a guy that believes in the same stuff that I believe in, and I'm appreciative of everything that Kevin's doing, and we'll continue to do over the course of the next few years while we rock this thing. I'm going to do a little giveaway, just FYI, guys. So basically how it's going to work is whether you watch now or watch after it's already put out, we're going to give away one of Kevin's black and blue spinner baits. We're going to give away the red and black. Get this up so you can see it. We're going to give away a couple of swim jigs. I'll work on it. I was talking to Kevin earlier, and he's got so many different colors. It's hard for me to know and remember all the names of them. So instead of trying to sit down one night and memorize everything, which eventually I'll get there, right now this jig is called orange and yellow, and this one is called silver and black, and this one is called green and blue. I can't remember all the names, guys. I'll figure it out, but we're going to give away those five things to, and then share the channel and make sure you subscribe. That's it. I'll and see what Hooked Up is all about. I think you'll be impressed. We've got some unstable connections going on again. There we go. We're back. So we've got a lot of questions. Kevin, I'm going to ask you a couple. I'll ask myself a couple. I'll ask us a couple. So we'll kind of share things. But Caden Donahoe wants to know, what is your PB bass? Where did you catch it, and what did you catch it on?
All right, so I'll kind of tell you two stories about my PBs. So years ago, I've never really been a bass fisherman. I didn't really know anything about bass fishing. I didn't know how to bass fish. I've never caught a bass. And I want to say in 2012, I was at a campground out in Janesville, and kind of set up like a little river rig, crawl around there, and just kind of cast right off the dock. And as soon as the line hit the water, tight line, rod bent, it was this mondo fish, and I'm fighting it. I'm pulling it in, and the rod is like seriously completely bent over. And here I pull this fish out, with like 45 pounds of veg on top of it, and I happened to uncover a 1 pound bass. That was my first bass. That was my PB for the longest time. I think my personal now point is probably only about a 5 or 6 pounder. But my son, my 5-year-old, hooked into, we're guessing it was about a 10 pound bass. We lost it right at the bank when I tried to lift it. But this thing was the biggest bass I've ever seen. It's upwards into the 10 pound range. But for me, I'm only, PBing out at 5 or 6.
Nice. For me, it is, so I caught it on Potholes Reservoir here in Washington State in about 2.5 feet of water on a 1/2 ounce Hot Lips Sexy Shad crankbait, 7 pounds, 6 ounces. That is my biggest. Let's see.
How big was it?
7 pounds, 6 ounces.
So, all right, yeah. So you're a little bit bigger than me.
Caught it in the fall.
What are you trying to go for?
What do you mean?
Like, what would be like, right? So, like, people want to go like down to Mexico where they're catching like 13, 14 pound bass. Kind of setting, like, are you kind of setting it where it's like, yeah, I'd really like to catch a 10 pound. That'd be really good for me. Or like, do you want like this prize winning fish?
I don't know that I have any crazy aspirations to get this ginormous fish. I think we all want to catch that monster. Like I want to go to El Salto and I want to catch a 15 pounder. But I think, here in my part of the woods, we don't grow them that way. A 9 pound fish here would be the equivalent of a 15 pounder in Lake Fork. They're just not that big here. So that 7.6 I caught was literally the biggest one I've ever seen pulled out of a lake in Washington myself. And the biggest fish we've ever weighed in a tournament here was 8 pounds, 2 ounces 2 years ago out of Potholes. So that 8 pounder is pushing the boundary of big here. So.
Yeah, it's, Wisconsin's kind of the same thing. We don't really have this big fish that you're going to see, in other states. I definitely don't think we're comparable to like Texas and things like that. But we definitely do have some hidden gems that are around for sure, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Jig that you currently produce.
Out of Hookup.
Yeah.
Well, all-time favorite that we've put out so far. I would say the 7 Deadly Sins jig series. So it's an 8-jig set that we sell. And the color combos that are in there it's really geared to be able to fish clear and kind of dark, murky water. It's kind of, we did a lot of homework when it came to doing research on the actual 7 Deadly Sins and trying to color coordinate the jigs so that they associated with what the 7 Deadly Sins were. The only one that we kind of modified just set. But if I'm picking kind of my all-time favorite jig and the one that I have the most fun with, and you guys are going to see on the Hooked Up Fishing 365 Facebook page, probably tonight when this is done, this massive joke, and it's kind of blown up this big thing now.
Yeah. I figured you'd say the unicorn. And if you guys don't know, Kevin about an hour ago was making he might have been baking cupcakes possibly in his kitchen, and the smoke alarm might have went off. I don't know.
It did at one point. I was in the kitchen. I can cook. I cannot bake to save my life. So I'm actually it's like a cheesecake tart is really what it is. But I've been sitting on this box for over a month now, kind of waiting for this moment. we kind of launch things, you know, like big epic things. We kind of launch, you know, kind of sporadically. And I kind of have this whole big thing planned around our unicorn jig. You know, the original unicorn jig started off as a swim jig, and I was really trying to make just a Wonder Bread pattern. I have a lot of luck with Wonder Bread patterns on various types of lures and things like that. And I really just wanted to make a Wonder Bread pattern. And one of our field staff members said, and we did. And then as a joke, I released a dabbing unicorn t-shirt and hoodie. And then we're going to be releasing something else. Anyone that thinks that you can do some very, very cool and kind of like eye-popping social media content that help us kind of highlight our unicorn products. That's why we did it, is because it's fun. But we have fun with all our jigs. With the names.
It's a simple decision for me because it's my signature jig, and I'm going with the lake perch because that thing is bad to the bone. The colors are beautiful, matches up perfect. And the nice thing about it, guys, if you have fish that feed on perch in your lakes and ponds and stuff like that, this jig is going to absolutely light them up. I didn't bring one up with me, but there aren't very many swim jigs or flipping jigs that you see out there that is matched up to look like a perch. You just don't see many of them and stuff like that. But this one, Kevin did a fantastic job, knocked it out of the park, and I'm super excited about that particular one. So that is my favorite jig.
That is a really fun brand. We went back and forth on that jig, really trying to match skirting colors and that I've ever had to make. Because I really wanted that one to really, really look like a perch.
Yeah, and it does. It's pretty phenomenal. I gave one of them to a buddy of mine that fishes here, and he's head over heels with it. So you guys need to go buy all of them. Get one. Let's see. Hey, Caden's got a question. Actually, we'll skip Caden's question for a minute. Alexander Clark has a question. Did Alex? Because we can go over all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to tell you, I'll break it down as simply as I can. I'll answer that one here in a second too.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'll break it down with the rod and reels that I choose, or just the rods that I choose. And then we'll talk a little bit about the reels. I'll talk about line, and then the areas I target. So I use two different 7'9" flipping sticks. So if I really need to water really fast, whereas if you're using a shorter rod, it's harder to get them up out of that cover. But when I'm really close combat, so like docks, lay down, stuff like that, where I'm trying to pitch really close and really tight and accurate, I use a 6'6" to no more than a 7-foot rod for that. Matches up really well. As far as a reel, I'm not going to tell you a brand because I'm really not partial to a brand. I don't have a brand sponsor for reels, nothing like that. But speed is important. You need a fast gear ratioed reel. So I would tell you nothing less than like a 7.3 to 1, because you need to pick up a lot of line really quick. A lot of times when these fish grab those jigs, they grab it and they swim right at you, and you got to pick up a lot of line in a hurry. So a long rod and a fast gear ratio reel will really help with that. As far as line goes, I'm a strictly braid. I don't do a fluorocarbon leader. I don't do any of that. The water up here is always a little bit green, so I'm not worried about them seeing the line. I use Power Pro braid or Cabela's braid, either fishing around a lot of cover, but the areas that we fish, specifically when you're flipping a jig, are generally pretty full of sticks and logs and all that stuff. So I'd tell you 50-pound braid is adequate for most scenarios. And then as far as cover goes, like I'm looking for anything that looks, I know it sounds cliche, but I'm looking for anything that looks fishy, right? So just weird logs that are just like a one-off. Lily pads, eelgrass, all kinds of stuff. So like cover is the key, right? Not saying you can't throw a jig out on a big rock pile and catch a fish, like that'll happen. But when you're flipping, I'm just looking for cover that looks fishy. And then the other tip I'll give you is find a spot where your average deep underneath them for a tournament. And I flipped the jig into a spot that there was no business for a fish to be there. Like it was next 6 inches. It was like a foot deep. And the minute that thing touched the water, you watch my rod go whack. And I set the hook on this thing, caught a 5-pounder. So you got to put it in places where other people aren't going to put it. Your chances are better to land a monster.
Yeah, real tough places that that most people are not going to fish. And we've pulled some good sized fish regardless of species in front of them.
Yeah, and then just knowing the time of year to throw it, right? I think there are times of the year where I'm not going to throw a jig because I know it's not going to produce as well as a different technique.
Right.
But early in the year, they're on beds, they're moving in and out. You know, in the heat of the summer, they're going to be under all the, and then trial and error. Concentrate on the colors and try and match. Like, don't get too crazy right out the gate. I'll tell you to start off with whites, green pumpkins, and blues. That will get it done in 90% of every body of water you fish, regardless of where you live. Darker the water, you want to throw like the black and blues or the whites. The clearer the water, go back to the natural colors, the green pumpkins, the brown.
Yeah, and that's the thing with our jigs too. We have your traditional style color combos, like your black and blues, but we've tried to, instead of replicating what 1,000 other companies have done, we've tried to put, it's going to give kind of a different profile, presentation, kind of color look to it. And that's where we have a lot of fun with, still kind of keeping to those traditions. And, you know, we have a lot of success with our jigs, but, and then we've got a few that are, you know, a little bizarre and out there, that we have fun with.
Eric wants to know now, with the virus going around and waters being shut down for usage, what's a good way to keep practicing the skills needed for fishing? We're fortunate enough here that everything is still a go, and I will probably spend a lot of time on the water in between everything else that's going on. But I'll tell you a good way to practice, especially when it comes to jigs. Yep, and Alex just hit it on the head. Coffee can in the backyard. That is a fantastic way to practice flipping and pitching to a target, right? And I think you start with, you know, if you're relatively new to it, I think you start with a 5-gallon bucket. Get consistent to be able to hit that from a bunch of different distances. Then go to a coffee can, and then go to a red Solo cup. And once you start getting through that, it gets easier. Then I've gotten really good at being able to throw a jig out and make it come back to where I need it to go. So I call it bending a jig. You can call it what you want. It takes a ton of practice, but when it's all said and done, you can put a jig. You know, I can put a jig just about anywhere where I want now. So, but it took hours and hours of practice in my backyard. Like I would stand in my boat out on the road. So what you can do is get yourself 5 or 6 different size weights. So those little bottom bouncing triangle weights, you know, big sinkers up to, you know, 2 ounces that you can tie on the end of your rod. And the reason I say use a sinker is because you're not going to go beat up tackle on the road, right? But you can practice casting those on a bait caster, different weights, right? Because we all know that throwing a small square bill is different than throwing a ounce.
I think that's fish right now in certain spots. So what can I do to keep, you know, to really keep those skills and techniques sharp? And I think an aspect that is overlooked are resumes. really put those to look those over and make sure that the information that you have on there is relevant. Looking at all of the content that you have across all of your social media platforms to make sure all of that stuff is relevant, just aren't really correlating to where you are today. So I think there's a lot of really good things that can be done to hone the techniques for on the water, but then as far as off the water, doing stuff that's really going to help with your branding and your awareness to get you more sponsorships.
Nice. Fishing memory.
Favorite fishing memory. I've had a lot of really fun experiences out on the water. I would honestly say my favorite, a 21.5-pound king salmon. That would be my favorite memory.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was so, I wish like everybody could have seen that, because it was so funny watching him really fight this fish. He was battling. This was a big fish with a lot of power that took off on him. And hold rod and reel, fight the fish, and he's like yelling at the fish, and he like really gets into it, and he gets so passionate. And it was such a great time watching that. And there's like other little moments where, like we'll go out fishing, we're not really getting anything, and then he wants to catch some bait fish. There was another time where he caught a bait fish. We were out kind of late, and we fish, and like there were all these people walking by. But yeah, I think the salmon one was my favorite, but he and I have a lot of really awesome memories together while out doing stuff.
Yeah, I've got a million favorites too, but I think for me, lived there for I don't know, 27 years or something before we left. Grew up on a lake, Bear Trap Lake, connected to Lake Wapagasset, a couple of the big lakes up there that have some really good fishing. Some random guy pulls up. I'm fishing, doing whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 8 years old, or 9 or whatever I was. I have my spinning rod flipped upside down, and I'm reeling it backwards, like just stupid stuff. Apparently, Dad knew him, and just gave me some tips, gave me a tackle box full of tackle, enough to get me started, and rowboat out. Can I take the rowboat out? But I think for me, that's kind of what started it all, and something I'll really never forget. So pretty cool.
What brought you? How long ago did you leave Wisconsin?
I left when I was 25, I think. So roughly 20 years ago.
Okay.
26, something like that.
What made you move out?
And so I've moved. I think I've worked in seven different stores in 5 different states in the 15 years that I've been with the company. So wow. Just kind of relocating around, and we landed in Washington, or I landed in Washington for this last stop, Arkansas. Sorry, landed in Arkansas, where I met my wife at work. 8 months later, and now we got 3 kids and been married 10 years, and moved to Washington, and this is where we hung the hat.
Nice. I went as a kid with my dad, and this was my experience ice fishing, and I've never gone since. So he wants to go ice fishing. He went out and he bought like a hand auger, and other than he needed to somehow get a hole inside of this ice. So this is, I'm originally from Illinois. This is drilling. I don't know how long. It was probably a 10-minute thing, but it felt literally like my entire life, waiting for him to drill a hole. And by the time he was done kind of getting through however deep this ice was, we were really just both over it. I think we stayed for another 10 minutes, and then left. I've never been ice fishing since.
Well, ice fishing can be a lot more fun. Caden wants to know favorite fish from Hungary, walleye.
Some walleye, huh?
Only if I want to eat it.
Walleye's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah, like really going for bass last year, and that's been a lot of fun. And really trying to understand like where they're at, what kind of what presentation I want to throw at them. But I think, and I love catching bass, and I love the feel of one on the end of the line. But I think my favorite is literally fishing for king salmon in the fall. Like I literally, the first time I hooked into one, and all I heard was my line ripping off my reel. Like that is such an amazing feeling, and fighting that fish. And it's really at that point, it's a test of will. Who's going to win, you or the fish? And it's so much fun. But I do love catching bass, catching northern. Like I kind of get addicted to watching that fish come fly out of the water. That's an experience too. It's a good time. But I've been to multiple states in the U.S., but I've never been to another country. I'd like to go to Ireland, and England. I'd like to visit. A few other places. Italy. I'd like to go out there. France, things like that. Kind of your cliche things. New Zealand, I really want to go to. Yeah, I've never been out of the country.
I have not either. The U.S. And Mexico is the farthest I've been. I've been to a bunch of different states, but never left the country. My dream vacation, like five.
Yeah, I think Ireland would be a lot of fun. It's not only, it's beautiful out there. From seeing all the pictures and talking to people that have been there.
Is Norway. It's where all my family is from. I am a Norwegian, so that's where I would like to go.
Nice. What got you? We kind of went back to like childhood times and all that and whatever. What really got you into kind of taking fishing kind of from this like just fun, passionate thing, and kind of doing this pro kind of thing with getting sponsors and all, like what made you want to make that transition?
Yeah, so I'll make this story as short as I can. But basically, growing up in Wisconsin, I grew up fishing. That's all I ever did. Literally every single day that I had that I wasn't at school or at work, I was fishing. Got here to Washington, and about 4 years ago, didn't have a boat yet, didn't have any of that stuff, but knew how to catch fish, right? Been doing it my whole life. Didn't know any of the bodies of water here. So I bought a little 10 or 11-foot John boat from Cabela's, brought it home, fully decked it out, live well, everything, and went and fished a tournament with a bunch of FLW, ex-FLW guys and elite pros. It's crazy because I had a $1,800 trolling motor on a $600 boat with a cooler for a live well. So I'm sure that it looked funny, but all of these guys were so welcoming. I couldn't go very far because I had a little 5-horse motor. So I literally stayed like within a mile from launch. Caught, I don't know, I think I caught like 23 pounds of fish or whatever. Came in like, I wasn't last. That's all I know. I wasn't last. I was like 10th or 11th from the last. But I mean, these guys were sticks, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. but I was talking to Willie after that, and got rid of the John boat, went and bought my first Ranger, older used 30-year-old Ranger, but he had it for a really good deal, hooked me up, joined the circuit and went nuts from there. Last year was definitely my best year. As an angler, I struggle on a couple of bodies of water here. One is Banks Lake and the other is a Columbia River. Depending on the time of year you're fishing them, you can struggle hard. We had a really good year. We got 14th on the Columbia this year. We got 22nd at the championship. A bunch of like 20 to 30 places. Got a third this year. We had a really good year. And we're in every single tournament. We should have won Moses Lake. I had in like 15, maybe 20 minutes, I had like 10 pounds of fish jump off. Just came unbuttoned from the crankbait. So it was a year of what could have beens and a year of some really good growth. So for me, it's just that competitive fire. Like I love to go fishing, but I love
not just we're not just looking for tournament people to come on to field staff and all that. We take a lot of family members, and we had a lot of family people that are and they kind of want to try their hand at some tournaments, whether as a co-angler or an actual boater, or even these guys that they maybe have fished one tournament. They don't necessarily have like you're saying, like you kind of came in with this like rinky dink little setup with this little boat and this little motor. Do you think like do you need all of the big top stuff to enter a tournament, or can you be able to be successful and take it one step at a time?
Yeah, I think you can. There are challenges in it. You think about tough time of year because all the fish are so far back in that lake, back in what we call Crab Creek or the dunes. $60,000 boat, $5 million worth of rods and electronics. That doesn't make you a better fisherman under any circumstances.
Right.
Those fish don't know that you're in a $60,000 Ranger or a $6,000 flat bottom. They don't care. It's can you get a lure that the fish wants to eat in front of his face? Like that's what it all comes down to. So no, you don't need fanciest equipment. It helps. There's no doubt that the guys that have, the 10-inch hummingbirds and the 12-inch hummingbirds and the Mega 360 and the live scope and all of that, like there's an advantage there. They can get rid of unproductive water in a hurry. It doesn't mean they can catch the fish when they find them though.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a lot of insecurity that we start kind of judging ourselves, questioning ourselves, and we have this insecurity and this kind of fear where we kind of think we know what tournament are, how they're going to look at us, view us, what they're going to say about us. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, but what would you say to somebody, an angler that's, trying to get into the tournament circuits and all of that? Like what, if you had to pick like a kind of top 3, like advice, or top 5 advice, like what would you say to somebody trying to get into tournaments?
I would tell them, number one, don't take it so damn serious. You gotta have fun. My first year, I put so much pressure on myself because, and granted, like I had a ton of money invested, just bought a boat, $2,000 or $2,300 worth of entry fees. Like there's some pressure there, not just from a fishing standpoint, but from your family too, right? Like you're taking money that you could be using on other things in the hopes that you're going to get it back. So I would tell you, don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you have a significant other, like my wife fully supports me, win, lose, or draw, whether I fail or not, I know I can come home and my kids are still going to love me and I'm still going to have a wife. So don't take it seriously. Have fun. Number 2, practice. Get out there. I was watching or listening to something that Gerald Swindle had said a few years ago in a seminar type deal, and it rings so true to me that when you think about what anglers you fear to fish against during a tournament. And you can take guys, from my circuit, like we'll just use Taylor Smith, for example. Taylor fishes my circuit, an Idaho circuit. He fished the Bassmaster Classic this year. Taylor scares me as an angler. Not because Taylor's a better angler than I am, because he's not. But because he might be. But I'm going to say he's not. But what scares me is the guy that spends every minute that he has on the water perfecting his craft and practicing.
Right.
That's the guy that scares me, that puts in the work when no one else is willing to, when no one else is looking. He's not just out there when everybody else goes out there. Like if he's got 2 hours after work, he's heading down to the pond to go work. That's the guy that scares me more than Kevin Van Dam scares me. Like I'd go head to head with Kevin Van Dam any day of the week. He would clean my clock. Doesn't scare me. It's those other guys that nobody knows about that spend those hours and hours and hours on the water. So to get back to number 2, practice. So don't take it too seriously. Practice hard. And number 3, find, we'll call it the confidence bait. So find your confidence bait. That can sometimes be a trial and error, but I think we all have that one thing that we gravitate towards. So for me, if I was to pick, and Kevin might not like this, but I'm going to say it anyways. If I was to pick top 3 things that I want to throw, if I can, I'm throwing a frog. Jerkbait is number 2. I am the mini KVD when it comes to a jerkbait, and then a jig. So those are my 3 of them. But if I'm feeling down in the dumps, if I'm not getting bites, if I'm struggling to keep a positive mind frame, I'm tying that jerkbait on and I'm going to work, because I know I'll catch fish, and all it takes is one to spark it. So
right.
Here's your 3. Don't take it too seriously. Have fun. Go to your confidence bait when you're struggling and practice.
Yeah, that's a good 3. I think my confidence bait, I think when things aren't working and I kind of start to I kind of panic, and I'm like, okay, come on, we got to catch fish here. Like, what's going on? I'll definitely go into more finesse, whether that's like our finesse ball head jigs or like a Ned style or setting up a wacky rig, all that. You were mentioning the type of angler that you fear, and I've immediately thought of Bruce Lee, and there's a quote by him where it says, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." So I think that's really, really powerful quote, and kind of goes in line with what you're saying. Like, yeah. You're fearing that angler that's out there every day working, doing the stuff that needs to get done to really perfect what he's trying to do.
Yep, I agree.
So, it's something that we have looked into and explored throughout last year, and even kind of looked at a little bit this year. It's not something. Not right now. Would I like that? Sure. But I think right now there's a lot of really good airbrush artists that are out there. I think there's great existing companies, kind of these major brands that do some nice crankbaits and jerkbaits. And then I think with some of these kind of up and coming, airbrushers that are out there, I think there's like a handful of good companies that I have come across that do amazing work. And it's a company that I would support. So right now, I think it's funny because we kind of launched as an apparel company and all of that. We have slowly added in different types of fishing gear, and right now I'm kind of having a lot of fun with the jigs that we're producing. And I don't want to kind of take away from that and start throwing in a lot of other products. I think if I got into airbrushing hard baits, I think that'd be a very dangerous thing. And we'd have all kinds of things. But I think it would be something where I'd have a lot of fun doing that. But I would fear that it would take away from some of the creativity element and focus that we're putting in on the jig. So maybe something down the road. But it is something that we've explored. We've explored doing a lot of different things. But it's got to make sense for us as a company, and also has to make sense for our consumer, the angler that's out there, whether it's just a weekend style angler or a tournament angler. We hear all the time where you're kind of looking for a specific color, or you have an idea about some color combos, and you just can't find it. And I think that's what kind of created this pop shops operating other houses or whatever, where it's created this market for them to kind of pop up and introduce what they have to bring to the table. And I think it's those companies' time to shine right now. I'm not saying that the big name brands that have been around for the last 20 years are fizzling away. I think they're still here and they're major players. But companies like mine and these other ones, I think it's our time to be able to pop in and be able to offer a little something different to the anglers that are out there. Because we've seen everything so much, and we're trying to do something different. We're trying to offer something different. We're trying to offer a different type of competitive edge. I think one of the benefits that we have as a smaller type company, and I'll speak for my company. I take risks. I don't care. I don't sit and debate. Should I do this? Should I not? Oh, I don't know about this color. Should I do it? I don't have a board of directors. I'm not sitting here where I'm having to look at annual statements and quarterly statements, and I got to hit certain numbers and all of that. So I don't have that. I don't have that worry. I don't have that anxiety where some of these big corporations, they've got CEOs and CFOs and COOs and all this stuff where it's a numbers game and you have to hit numbers. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at trying to solve a problem for my consumer. So I think that's a benefit that we have where we get to play and not have to focus and worry so much about some of that more corporate-esque style stuff. And not that we don't focus on business, because we absolutely do. We want to be able to stay around, but we just don't have a lot of that, and that's not an aspect of the company that I ever want to be. I have no issues with the company, becoming huge. That's obviously what we want. We want to be that kind of name family brand within the fishing industry. But at no time no matter the size of the company, at no time would I ever change kind of how the company is ran, focusing on numbers. I'm more concerned with providing a high quality product to the angler that we're trying to target. So
yeah. Yeah, for me, it's I'm pretty set on the crankbaits that I use. Too much. I throw one crankbait or one jerkbait, well, two, but two brands. That's it. I have a bunch. I have like a billion because it's one of my favorite things. But I only throw two. I throw a KBD, and that's it.
okay.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like as far as hard baits, um, I'm using some Rapala stuff. I use when it comes to bass fishing, I don't use hard baits as much, and maybe I should. But like I'll use frogs, I'll use our jigs, things like that, worms, different types of soft plastic you know, with different hooks. Right now we've been kind of playing around with vector hooks. Um, when it, but I use a lot of hard baits, especially jerk baits when it comes to um, different types of species, whether it's walleye, whether it's trout and salmon. I've kind of used I really like bomber lures. I like some of the color combos that they've come out with, um, and that's really been successful for me. So I kind of get brand loyal, where it's like what you're saying. There's a couple of companies that you kind of stick with. Um, and it's because of the branding that they've done, and the product that they've put out, um, and what's comfortable, and what's working and successful. But there's a few things that I'll throw from a few different companies. And that's kind of part of why with certain products, we're not going to be putting certain things into the company. But hard baits are definitely useful and successful. I haven't used too much of the KVD stuff though.
I don't use a ton, but I've got a couple of his jerk baits that I really like, so they stay in the box. I get a lot of questions throughout the year about what do I do when I can't fish. So the off season, there really is no off season, but when it gets too cold to fish or there's too much ice, stuff like that, I get asked what I do. So I figured what I do, I'll tell you what I do. It's pretty simple and it's pretty stupid. I buy and sell sports cards. So that's what I do in the off season. I have an eBay page, and I buy boxes of sports cards. I open them up and I sell them, and I use all that little bit of money that I make doing that to buy boat things. So
yeah, sports cards are coming back.
Yeah, so I spent all winter doing this, and after like 2 days ago, I got enough to buy my new trolling motor, which has been my to-do thing since I started this. So I accomplished that by buying and selling some stupid sports cards.
No, it's not stupid, man. I'm telling you right now, sports cards are coming back, and they're coming back fierce.
Yeah.
They're coming back fierce. Now is the time. Like, I remember collecting sports cards when I was a kid, and then I watching my dad. The whole basement, and I'm talking the entire basement, was filled with boxes and boxes of cards. And he would collect and sell and collect and sell, and he'd go on all these trade shows and all this stuff. And then sports cards were super popular, right? And then and were hot. Do you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk at all?
I do occasionally, and I know that's one of his big hot buttons right now. Hence the reason why he put out a little Gary V line in the last set.
Yeah, he's funny. But yeah, they're hot. It's something I've been looking at too. I don't collect anymore. I've got some cards that I've put away. I haven't collected cards in years, but yeah, I watch consumers. That's what I do. I watch consumers. I don't necessarily follow like statistics of numbers and companies and blah blah blah. I watch what the consumer does. But yeah, sports cards, they're coming. It's picking back up.
It's fun. It's also messy. I have cards everywhere in my office, and it used to be the spot where I film, and it still is. But I have to move it all when I have to go do a live, and that's kind of stupid because I've literally got cards everywhere. But it's fun.
You gotta get a big old Rubbermaid box.
I know. Let's go for another 12 minutes. We'll wrap this up at 9, but that'll be almost 2 hours. But I saw Alexander Clark up there said, "Go Dogs." I imagine because I'm from Washington State, and I'm going to tell you, Alex, no, not Go Dogs. Go Badgers. I am a Wisconsin boy. I am a huge Badger fan, but that is where it ends for me. I was born in Minnesota, so I am a Vikings fan.
Vikings, bro.
So that's how I grew up. I grew up watching Vikings Pro Ball or Minnesota Pro Ball, Wisconsin College Ball. And it's been that way for 44 years, and it's probably not going to change.
I'm weird, man, when it comes to sports. So, like, I grew up, so I'm originally from Illinois, like I said. My entire family are Chicago White Sox fans. My mom's a Cubs fan, so I grew up a Cubs fan. Everybody is a Chicago Bears fan. My dad is a Green Bay fan. And kind of after, like, the 85 Super Bowl with the Bears, it's kind of like a bonding thing with my dad. I, would sit and watch Packer games with him, and became a Packers fan.
Boo.
Hockey, everybody is a Blackhawks fan. I've been to so many Blackhawk games and Chicago Wolves games, and I was a Hawks fan for the longest time. We would go to so many games, and every time we'd go, like Jeremy Roenick, Belfort, Chelios, like those guys back in that era, I was just a kid, and they knew me by first name, and I got to see them every time we went to a game, and it was such a highlight of my childhood. And then I came across Bob Probert, and I watched Bob Probert beat the ever living dog shit out of somebody, and I started watching the Red Wings. So I've been a Red Wings fan since, and then switched back over to Blackhawks when Probert came on the team for a short time, and then jumped back over to the Red Wings. But yeah, I'm like weird when it comes to sports. I'm not kind of traditional with where all my friends and family are kind of lined up.
Yeah, no, I get it. I hate baseball. But I'm beginning to appreciate it. I'm not a big hockey fan, even though I used to play. Can't really stand soccer except for like World Cup stuff. Tennis should probably not exist. Golf is my sport of choice that I play. I love football, and I love basketball. So
nice. Yeah, I used to golf a lot. Another company that I owned, it was a lot of hard work doing that company, but I had a lot of free time. And I golfed probably 5 times a week. I sucked. I was really bad at it. Really bad. I was okay in the long game, but then as soon as I hit the green, my short game was absolutely horrible. I'd par or be under par getting to that green, and then as soon as I hit that green, it's like playing golf, and I'm about 20 strokes later, finally sink it in the bucket. But
yeah, it's definitely not the easiest sport in the world to play.
No.
So a couple of things before I wrap this up. Number one, Kevin, I know this was a complete and total train wreck to get set up. It will be easier in the future, I promise. But I wanted to say thank you for helping get this out there. And joining us for this.
No, it was a lot of fun. The train wreck element, honestly, it made me laugh. I'm sure you were stressing out over there because technology sucks. It does, but I was over here giggling, so I thought it was funny.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I wanted to say thanks to everybody for joining the stream, and then everybody who will watch this afterwards. Don't forget we've got a little giveaway. I'm just going to let the video run for a week. I'm going to pick somebody at random. I'll send you the jigs. and the spinnerbait. So there's that. What else?
What else? Let's get people got to start. You know, we got a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, and I know people are panicked and stressed and whatever. But there are a lot of businesses out there that are still relying on the economic value that the American people can bring. I know I have a lot of friends that own businesses that are shut down completely, and they have no form of income coming whatsoever. And then other businesses where they're shut down, but they have some type of product capability that they're able to sell online. You know, and I think we still need to be able to support the economy and be able to support these businesses to make sure that we, you know, obviously we have no idea how long this is going to last. I don't think this is obviously going to be a forever thing. You know, as a country, we've survived everything that's ever been thrown at us, and I think the American people are a lot stronger than some of the behavior that the select few are, you know, kind of showing right now. But I think we need to still be able to support each other and support businesses, whether local brick and mortars or online companies. So
yeah, I agree. I think you know, we're in a situation that the world really has never been in. You know, an illness like this with such a high mortality rate is not a common thing that we run into every day, right? And everybody's going to react a little bit differently to the scenario and the situation that they're put in. And let's face it, there's a lot of people, and I've got a lot of employees, you know, 60 some employees are going to be affected by this directly that aren't going to be working over the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And, you know, we're still going to pay them for those few weeks. And I just hope that something gets figured out, because there's going to be a lot of people that tend to lose, or that could stand to lose everything. And that's unfortunate. So be nice to each other. Like,
yeah, we've already had a stabbing. Was it here? I don't know. I read it somewhere. I don't know if it was here. It's somewhere. We've already had a stabbing going on. You know, we're running on the Facebook page. We've put out a lot of posts where, you know, we've got some product that we're selling right now that we really need people to purchase. And, you know, we're taking those proceeds from that to be able to donate. You know, like you were saying, that like there are going to be people that are affected that literally lose everything. You know, and that could be you, that could be me, that could be neighbor Bob, that could be, you know, Mary down the street. And, you know, we launched some products that, some apparel and some gear and stuff, that we are really trying to get people to purchase so that we can take those proceeds to be able to help some of these families that are going to end up falling apart. Whether that's, you know, some groceries right now, or helping them pay rent, or getting them back on their feet after, you know, catastrophe happens. So I would definitely encourage, I'd rather you guys bought those products than anything else from us right now. So
yeah,
it's a big deal to us.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And you know, it's more than just trying to sell gear, right? If you can't do something good with what you have when people need it, I think you're doing something wrong. So I applaud you for that, Kevin. And guys, if you go down into the description after I get this posted, there'll be a link directly to Hooked Up Fishing 365. There's a little discount code in there as well. It may work for some stuff. It may not work for other stuff. But I would ask that if you guys want to do something good and help somebody out, go buy a shirt or whatever he's got going on there for giving back to the communities that he lives in. I know he'd appreciate it, and I would appreciate it. So it is almost 9 o'clock. So once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody for the questions. I had a really good time. I will do this again when we can make this run a little bit smoother. Until then, guys, tight lines, Get out there amid all the craziness. I promise you, if you go out fishing, whether it's alone or with your buddy, you're probably not going to get coronavirus out there on the lake. Don't lick any bass because bad things could probably happen. And have fun.
How about, can I sniff the bass? I want to be able to sniff the bass.
If you want to sniff the bass, that's your business. I would just tell you, probably don't kiss it or lick it right now because we just don't know. But get out there and catch some fish. Have a good time. Enjoy your families. Enjoy each other. If you're quarantined for 14 days and you have to sit inside your house, go to my YouTube channel. You're already watching it. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell icon. Watch all the videos. I hit a milestone today. I hit a milestone today on the channel.
Nice.
2,100 hours of viewing people have watched on the channel. Not too shabby. I know I suck at putting content out on a regular basis, but I will get better. You guys don't know I had a little bit of an operation right here where they sliced my neck open, took out discs, put dead people bone in there, titanium plates, and stitched it all together. So I'm still trying to get back to normal. I'm only 11 and a half weeks out of surgery. I get better every day, which means the content soon. So tight lines, guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, comment. Do it.
That's right, guys. Take it easy. Thanks for tuning in, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.